Stop writing. Hi.
Hi. I was loving our new intro.
We have a new intro now. I'm not sure if anybody else noticed, but we now have a brand new Your Kickass Career weekly wrap up intro. Yay, us. Woo.
Okay.
So hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Friday. It is Friday of another week. Holy cow, this has been a long week. Okay. Whew. Welcome to Friday. Welcome to everybody who's joining us for the weekly wrap up. I am curious to know if anybody else felt like that weird, like everything was in slow motion and then really sped up the last couple days, or if it was just me.
Put that in the comments because we would love to hear. I had a similar week as well. And yeah, what do you think makes it go by like fast? What makes time fly for you, Kim?
Oh, well, okay. So what makes time fly in general for me is when I'm in the flow, when I'm in that place of really enjoying what I'm doing. And I may not be perfect at it, right? I may be learning something new, but I'm excited about what I'm learning. So I'm in that place of flow. There's a heightened type of energy that just makes it go fast. That was part of this week when time started flying the last couple of days because there's a lot of excitement building for me. I also think energetically we were in a place where, beginning of the week, we had 6 planets moving backwards. One had just started that process. So I think energetically the world may have felt this big slowdown. I think it was amplified for me this week because of being so excited, because we are launching our community next week. And yeah, that's exciting. So Louise, what makes time fly for you?
I think it's the same. Like when I'm really in my zone, time I need certain environmental requirements to help me. And then time flies, right? So I've got my music going, I've got my candle on, I've got my desk is like in the right state, the right,
like not cluttered.
Organized, not cluttered, but it has to be super clean. And then for some reason, all of that environmental energy that I get allows me to really like dive in and do something. And even if it's scary, or even if it's something that I'm not really sure of, time seems to fly by because I think that I can I can get out of my own way and I can step into that task at hand and really just be in the zone. So I know that the environment impacts me. So I set my environment up for success before I even kind of jump in to that task. But then time flies.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So we're using a little bit of different words here, right? Zone versus flow. I think they're fairly similar in kind of what that feeling is. And you're talking about your physical environment, and I was talking about an energetic environment, right?
Yeah.
So both of those things are in alignment as well. So I would love to know if anybody's listening, I can see people are listening, but I would love to know if those who are listening feel that, like that zone, that flow, like when are you in that place and how do you get there so that you can create more of that time flies?
Yeah.
Water.
Well, and I'm going to kind of segue this into my accomplishments. Right here we are, weekly wrap up. We're wrapping up our week, and one of the things that I've noticed over this last week is this thing I call residuals, right? Like how what I'm doing impacts what I do next, how my environment impacts what I'm doing now. All of these things, I've really been able to pay attention that if there's one thing going well, then it kind of like has these residuals, has these ripples, and I want to ride the wave. But then I also want to recognize too is that when there's a crunchy spot and things aren't going fantastic, how do I turn that around so that I can, I'm on the top of the wave, not at the bottom of it. There's a word for that when you're at the bottom, the trough.
The
I'm
trough.
at I'm at the top. I'm not in the trough.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, right, we're going to talk about this a little bit in next week's episode, which is when we're going to talk about when plans fall apart. So, right, it's that being in that trough place. I'm so sorry that I'm choking right now. So I think that it is interesting that residual effect, that is those ripples, and
Mhm.
whether they're your ripples or somebody else's, because we can get caught in somebody else's, like the eddy or the energetic flow of other people really really easily. And when we go to those, when we're affected by that, it does sometimes feel like we're in the trough even when we're not. So I find that to be interesting, is right where our thoughts take us when we're not in flow. It's like,
Right,
oh, this is a slog. Oh, this is crunchy. Oh, this is hard,
right,
right? Because we're not riding the wave.
right, right. Well, okay, so let's segue into our topic for today around community, because you did mention about the people who are around us and how they impact how we feel. And it actually impacts all our resources, to be honest, right? And when you are trying to level up at work, you're trying to make a career change or dive into your business in a way that you really, really want to amplify your impact. Your community and the people that surround you closely and then not so closely really do it really do leverage what you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to understand that community comes at different spheres, right? Because we
Mhm.
have those people that are closest to us, whether that's our, our work spouse, or whether that is our spouse or partner at home, whether it's our parents, our best friends, or whoever those people are, or paid professionals, right? Paid professionals can very much be part of our community. And I talk very often about the dream team, which are
Mhm.
those people, and that's that core group of people that are not yes people, but they're people that are there to really create support for you, and you likely are also creating some sort of support for them. There's a nice give and take there. There's that
Yeah.
circle out from that in our communities, where they touch our lives in some way. They may come and go, but they're close enough that we could probably name most of those people in that next circle. And then there's the wider community, right? We may not even know who they are, but they impact our lives. It can be the person who buys your coffee while you're going through Timmy's, or it can be the person who cuts you off at the red light. It's right. It's those people in our greater community. And when we think about it in the workspace, we also have those spheres of influence within
Yeah.
our community.
Yeah.
And somebody on the outside can impact us just as much as somebody on the inside. And so that's where I think it's important to understand where those ripple effects, where those eddies, we can pick them up from wherever we are.
Mhm. Yeah, and when you're trying to do something that you've maybe never done before, you're trying to do something different, right? You're taking a risk or wanting to take that next step or whatever that looks like. Sometimes those people in our close community, in our close yeah, our close community or that second sphere or outside, they impact us in a way that holds us back from recognizing the next step that we have to take. And that's when we can feel really, really stuck. It's because we only know what we know. We only know what our community knows. We only know what our network knows. And so we kind of get really stuck in. So instead of like riding the waves, like you'd said, I feel like sometimes we're stuck in that call it that eddy that just keeps circling around and around, and it can pull us down sometimes, and it does feel really, really sticky.
Oh my goodness, yeah. It can be so challenging when, especially when we don't it we hear these things and we receive this information from outside of ourselves, right? It can be actual words that are said to us, things that we overhear. It can also just be, again, since this is a place that I love to live in, it can be energetic. It can be somebody giving you the cold shoulder and you don't know why, right? that all creates a story in our heads, and I don't know why it's always right back here for me, but these stories in our brains that start to minimize even further our ability to see what's possible. So when we want to lean further in to our career, wherever that is, right? As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as an employee, as, a team leader, as a CEO, wherever we are in that, it becomes really hard to do what we want to do when we're taking in everything from outside and making it our own. So, like, how do we then break through that to start to hear our own voices so that we can utilize our community and really create that as a resource for us when we're building our kick-ass career?
So absolutely. So I love that question that you asked, is like, how do we hear our own voices? Can we go there for a second?
Yeah, please.
How do we do that? Any tips or tricks, or like what can we do, Kim, to kind of be able to settle in, turn down the noise, and hear our own, what we're right
Yeah.
here from here, because
From
our
here.
voices
Yeah.
come from here. This
Right,
is
right.
so cool. We hear it here, but that's not where it comes from. It comes from here.
Yeah. This is where the stories
Cool.
live.
Head, for those who are listening.
Yeah, for those who are listening, we're pointing to our heads. So the stories live in our heads, but the truth, our authority lives in the 90% else, like the remaining 90% of our body.
Yeah.
So our truth, how do we get to that truth, is really having a deeper level of awareness, right? And peeling back the layers of what's true for us, for a deeper understanding of our experience and our values, our wants, our desires, and what is really important to us in this lifetime and in creating an impact through our career. So I really think it comes from deep, deep, deep awareness of ourselves, and then seeing that in coupling with the organization, with the community that we are in contact with, right? Because regardless of whether or not we own or founded or our own business, or we're working with somebody else, we have to be aligned with that organizational community to be able to do the work that we're there to do. So I think that's that. It's like your awareness, then the awareness of how you connect in with your community, and then the awareness of how does that community support you and how do you support it for a common good, for a common outcome.
Yeah. And when you're looking to do something different, how do you change up your community, right? Because you're now needing support in a different way, right? And your network might not be resourceful enough to allow you to change. When you are aware, when you are acting from that place of self-efficacy, and you're fully moving forward, finding a community of people can be really challenging, because you might be leaving some of your community behind.
Yeah. Oh, that's so hard, right? And it comes with it this idea of it's painful to release, it's painful to say, look what I've built, I'm stepping away from that. It's also painful because there's very often a sense of fear of missing out, of FOMO. It's like, what am I going to miss if I leave this behind? And then another part that can come up is that fear of, am I doing the right thing? Like, all these people are still there. How is it okay that I'm stepping over here? How can that be okay? And what's interesting, and I've seen it with many of my clients, is they get to that place of, I'm ready to make the change. I'm hearing people give me support that yes, you should step into that next place for yourself. And they're still questioning. They're still like, well, but is this the right choice? Because that severance, that saying goodbye to a portion of who we used to be and stepping into our someday self, it's like opening a door that is like we have no idea what to expect on the other side. And here's that we actually do know what to expect. Or we know who our someday self is. It's just really scary to think of becoming them. So that's those people who are your yes people who are supporting you in moving forward. They can be a stronger sense of community and support for you when you're tied back to your former self.
Yeah, and it's that community of people that can pull and support you into that future self, right? And allow you to make that break without feeling like you've lost an arm.
Right. Nobody wants to lose an arm.
Nobody wants to lose an arm, and so finding that community and finding those people that can support you through that transformation, I think is so important. I know when I left corporate, that was about 5 years ago. I actually lost a lot of friends. A lot of my coworkers are completely different now. But I mean, we had different values and different ideas about what the future looked like. I heard a lot of like, how could you? How could you? How could you leave a full-time job? How could you, right? How could you? How could you? Those are all anchors. Those are all things that hold me back. And I started questioning, like, how could I? How did I? Right? And it's not, and it became a struggle when I had to continually hear some of that every day. I needed the support from a community of, right, business builders and entrepreneurs who were like, what can you do next? Or, right, or like, look what you've done, right? Where do you need help or support? And all of those questions. And it's going back, it's looking at in the past, right? How could you make that change? How could you do that? That's done. That's the past stuff. And so that's moving you backwards when you want to be moving forwards. And so it's all those forward moving questions, all that forward moving support that becomes so crucial when you're right at that, making that change and then continuing to grow and develop, right?
Absolutely. It's so interesting because I did have that as well. I had ooh, what are you thinking? Wow. And then I had, I think, even a larger portion of my community that was like, that is so inspiring. That's amazing. I don't know that I would be brave enough to do that. And I leaned into that. And I started opening other doors along the way to see, oh, look, there's somebody over here that I found that's doing something similar. Or I found somebody down, like I knew these people, but they were in that kind of outer part of my circle. I didn't know them very well, but as word got out, as things started to trickle out that I was doing this, they became closer into my sphere, where then I had opportunities to really lean into and receive support. But then I also, those people who were like, wow, I would never be brave enough. I would never be, to make whatever change. I was able to be an inspiration to them. And so it was both sides of that, because it's something that allowed me to feel inspiring in myself, right? And to keep moving forward, because I was reminded that not everybody does this, right? And while we do hear about, the great resignation, the great reshuffling, the great reorganization, the great
Great, whatever, fill in the blank.
Great whatever is right now, there's a lot of movement, and yet people are still hearing like, how could you? And you're so inspiring. And I think what might be helpful to hear is, you've got this, right? Because that's one of the things that I heard when I was going through it, but it wasn't the drum. Like, I had to create that drum myself, and then eventually find the people to help me beat that drum of, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this.
Right.
Because that wasn't right. And I don't think that that's still the norm out there.
Right. Yeah, and this is like the foundation of like why we created your Kick-Ass Career and why we're launching our community.
Well, I think we just lost Louise. Hopefully she will be back just a second, but she was starting to share that the beating of the drum, this idea of you've got this, you've got this, you've got this, and creating a holistic, beautiful community that that comes together to support one another. Welcome back, Louise.
Thanks,
Internet gremlins. The having that community, having that ability to come together, to support one another, to be supported by Louise and I in a non-hierarchical way, to say, hey, let's come together. You've got this wherever you are. And I don't know about you, Louise, but as I've started talking to people about the community and the launch and next week's event, several people have come to me and they're like, well, who is the community for? And I say, do you work? And they say, yes. And I say, then it's for you. Because here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're getting ready to retire, if you're getting ready to start a business, a side gig, if you are a CEO, if you are the janitor, it doesn't matter. Everybody who works deserves a kick-ass career. And we can help open those doors and create community to support you in doing that.
Yeah, and I think too with a community of people and like-minded people, you get to see what's possible, right? And you go from feeling that nothing is to feeling like anything is. And so that's yeah, that's why we're here. So Kim put up a link to go to yourkickasscareer.com and sign up for our community. We are launching the Jumpstart event next week. Jumpstart, Jumpstart, Jump Kick.
Yeah. Not Jump Kick. That would be weird. Jump Kick. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're in, I guess, Taibo or something. Wow, Taibo. Where did I pull that from? Yeah, I don't know. I did kickboxing, so I guess so. Jumpstart Your Kick-Ass Career is a live 3-day event. It's the internet fuzzed out in your brain for a second. Jumpstart Your Kick-Ass Career is a live 3-day workshop that we're running next week, September 20th through 22nd. Louise, do you want to tell them a little bit about what they can expect from the event and kind of how it's being put together?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can probably expect a little more of this for sure. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about are, I think, the three biggest things the three biggest obstacles I think that are in our way or in your way to really, jumpstart your kick-ass career. So we're going to be talking about your origin story, right? This is really where you can learn about how to get crystal clear on how work fits into your life and understand some of the shifts that have been happening for you. Oftentimes when we're at this crossroads of like, I don't know what's next for me, but I know there's more than this, we get really, really stuck. And so we're going to spend our first day talking about what got you to the crossroads, because that's where your superpowers are. And that's what's going to rocket you into, right, making the next step. We're going to talk
like that awareness, right? That we were talking about earlier, is that first place of some awareness.
Yeah. Then we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, how to stop shitting on yourself. And
Don't shit on yourself.
Right? These are all those questions that we talk about, right? What should I be doing with my life? What should I be doing next, right? How do I follow my passion when I should be focusing? Like should. We should on ourselves, and then we don't hear. That's kind of this voice that we were talking about earlier, right? This voice that goes on in our heads is our shoulding voice. Sometimes we get it from our environment too. But so how do we turn that down so that we can pay attention to what is really happening? We have the answers that we need, but we don't always know how to listen for them.
And what I think is interesting is when we can turn down that shoulding voice, we get to start experimenting a little bit more, right? We get to take our awareness forward into that place of experimentation of, what's possible.
Right. Well, then, I'm going to say it's all about the data. And so we can't.
It is. It just is.
Then our final one on the 22nd is we've called it the Justice Marvel League, based on your superpowers and your superhero. This is actually really about more of this. How do we come together? Where do you go when you need that support? How do you find the people and the places that lift you up and propel you forward when sometimes you feel like you're being pulled backwards?
Yeah, right. And it's about community. It's about creating that community. And so, to no surprise, we will be talking also about your Kickass Career online community membership that is going to be launching as well. So that we're very, very excited about. If you head over again to yourkickasscareer.com, you can get information about the community. You can also sign up there to join us live at next week's event. Each day it will be an hour training. If you can't make it live, please still RSVP, and then you will get the recording. You do have to RSVP to get the recordings. We will live stream on our video on our YouTube as well, but to have the recordings, you do need to be RSVP to them. So please do RSVP and join us live. We will have a special bonus session on Friday, which is it's like a working session on how to amplify as well. I think, isn't that correct?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I really encourage everyone. I'm working on the workbook right now and all of the great stuff that we're going to be giving away during this 3-day workshop. So make sure that you pre-register. You'll get the workbook. You'll have the opportunity for the recordings to be able to really get more clarity on how to get started and how to get to be a part of your Kickass Career community as we launch it. Like, this is a one-time, like this is it. Like, we're only going to launch it for the first time once, right? And so I encourage everyone if you're remotely interested and are thinking about a career change or leveling up your impact or moving the bar, whatever it is that you're doing or wanting to do or thinking about doing, or that dream, that thing that you're like, oh, one day I might, now's the time to get into it. We can make that one day a today.
That's right, because that's your someday self knocking at the door.
Our friend, I know, right? So our friend Sarah Dole would say, your future self will thank you, right? But it really is about, like, how do you plan? What do you do today so that your future self will thank you?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So because it's true. We all have the ability to bring our someday self, our future self, into today. And as somebody who has spent a lifetime of dreaming and also a lifetime of saying, pardon my language, but fuck it, I'm moving on. I think that that's what I want for people. I want for people to not have to be in situations that feel crunchy or toxic or just yucky. So I just put a new banner up on my LinkedIn page and it says, work shouldn't suck. Pretty much, I think if you're going to get down to the nitty gritty of what both Louise and I believe in terms of what it means to have a kick-ass career, it means work shouldn't suck. It's not going to be, rainbows and lollipops and unicorns all the time, but work should not suck. Doesn't matter who you work for, work should not suck.
Yeah. It shouldn't. Monday mornings, you should be dreading putting your feet on the floor.
That was also just a whole bunch of shoulding. I just realized that. Work should not. Oh man, I have to come up with a new way to say that. Damn it.
It doesn't have to suck.
There you go. Work doesn't have to suck. I love that. Thank you, NLP queen. Louise, how to use language. Hey, Louise, we talked about it earlier in this session, in this episode. What are we talking about next week? Do you remember?
I sure do, because we're going to have lots of things to say when plans fall apart, because they do. and we know that they're going to. And so, how do we lean into the failure, especially as recovering perfectionists?
Do we ever
Um,
really recover?
so, no, I don't know. There's a lot of healing that has to go on with a perfectionist for sure. Um, However, this is what we're going to be talking about next Friday, and what to do about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we will be joining live here on our channel at the regular time, coming right off of that bonus session. So we will share a little bit of lessons learned from doing a live launch in this way, which we have not done for this community before. And so it's going to be exciting to step into it and kind of share best practices, not in terms of launching something, but in terms of what to do when things don't happen the way you might want them to. Right. And it happens to us all day, every day as a former stage manager, director, producer, like that. And an event person, like nothing ever happened the way that I wanted it to. And I had to learn that lesson early on that you can't drive yourself nuts on it. So, but how do we extrapolate that out into, oh crap, this is my life now? Because I think that's the important part. What are your golden nuggets for this week, Louise?
There was a lot of golden nuggets that I got from this week. I think for me, it was this whole idea that the stories that we tell ourselves really limits our view. When we are stuck in our heads, when that voice gets really, really loud, we can't see all the options. And I think that's so important. It's funny that hearing a voice can limit your sight, but it really does.
Oh my gosh, so much so. Yeah. So I think mine was really that idea of being in the wake, right? Is that this
Mm,
that whether it is energy, behavior, something else, but being in that wake and how that can create an eddy effect and start to pull you down. And how do you start to pull yourself back up by creating a different group of people, a different community around you that can help
yeah,
elevate you, help level you up. I think
yeah,
that was really a really interesting part of today's conversation, and particularly around that idea of shifting communities,
right,
right? Yeah.
right. It's changing that movement.
Mhm.
Right? So you're not stuck in that eddy. You gotta change the direction the water's flowing in order for you to get out of it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
Or like me, just push like hell. I'm
it.
getting out. That's my rebel tendency. All right, my friends. Thank you for joining us for another Your Kick-Ass Career weekly wrap up. As always, please leave us what your golden nuggets are, and we hope to see many of you next week live at the Jumpstart Your Kick-Ass Career live 3-day workshop.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
All right, bye for now.